just like it never was wrong. Okay, so first, let's start off with something light, as we try to do, but we'll see. Maybe there's some very differing or controversial views on this. So, in news, I don't think anyone was really also familiar with, unless you've ever actually bumped into this issue lawfully. Salute to Hollywood and Los Salute to Jason Lee. Cheating on your spouse in New York is no longer illegal. Yes, you heard that right. Cheating is no longer illegal. So, New York just dropped a major bombshell on Friday. This is really what people would consider a major bombshell. Officially repealing a law that had criminalized cheating on your spouse. That's right. That old school misdemeanor from back in 1907, which could have landed you in the clink for 3 months if you were caught stepping out, is now history. Governor Kathy Hochul, say I hope I'm saying the name right, who's been happily married for 40 years, oh, good for them, signed the bill saying, while I've been fortunate to share a loving married life with my husband for 40 years, making it somewhat ironic for me to sign a bill decriminalizing adultery, I know that people have complex relationships. Basically, she's saying that marriage gets complicated. It is not the job of the criminal justice system to get involved in those messy situations. For those we didn't know adultery laws have existed in several states, mostly to make divorce harder back in the day, but enforcement, that's kicker. Charges were super rare and convictions were even rare. State assembly members, there should be a little space there. Ooh, somebody made a boom boom. Charles Levine, pointed out that since the 70s, only a dozen folks were actually charged under this law, and just five were convicted. Damn, I would hate to be those five folks. Levine stated, laws are meant to protect our community. New York adultery laws advance neither purpose. This law was basically collecting dust. There's probably a few of those in the states. Having last been used in 2010 when a woman was caught in a park. Damn. I would love to hear that story. What happened? Did her husband catch her and he called the cops on her? Though her charges got dropped in a plea deal, New York almost removed the relic back in the 60s too, when experts said it was nearly impossible to enforce. Um, if you click over, what is it? Is it gonna be like somebody like a news thing? I don't know. This is the actual article. Cheating on your spouse in New York may no longer be illegal as a new bill seeks to appeal ban, and they did it. So, I guess I mean, I could ask you guys, but there's really not anything. I was gonna ask, does anyone know that there were laws against adultery? But I guess that doesn't really matter. Now, similar to what what was it, the governor was saying, this is kind of an ironic point of conversation for us because as men of God on here on this podcast. While it may not be a law that's part of the criminal justice system, there are definitely laws in the scriptures about committing adultery. So, so to all the brothers and sisters in New York, if you're sticking by the book, you still gotta adhere to it. But of course, we already knew this. But I mean, it does bring the question up. And I guess this is why it would have been somewhat irrelevant to ask you guys, as you guys know this. But I mean, this is an instance where they're repealing it. I wouldn't be shocked if other states still had some level of laws. Again, it might be rare for people to actually bump into it, but they still might exist. And if somebody really wanted to enforce it, they probably could go down that rabbit hole. But what do you guys think of stuff like this? And there's other laws like this in general, where there are laws that don't necessarily like the person was saying, they don't necessarily protect anybody. They're kind of just more so to protect society from a moral standpoint, if that makes sense. So I guess what do y'all think? Do y'all think that adultery, moral matters should be and situation issues like that should be like a legal matter, or do you think it's a wholly good thing that it would things like this are no longer legal? Let's start with you, Ace. What do you think?
Um, I think I do think it makes sense given the reasons provided that this law would be repealed. The main one being how difficult it is to actually prosecute somebody for it or prove that somebody committed adultery and prosecute somebody for it. I feel like that would get
What do you mean?
super hairy in court,
What you
bringing
think?
proof to.
You think they can't prove that somebody's? Well, that's actually. I think. Sorry, I'm so quick to go back and forth. Uh, I wonder what they constitute as actually cheating. I guess that's where we can get lost.
Right, right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, my assumption that would be that you'd have to catch them in a way that it was undoubtable that they were going to physically commit adultery. Like they were maybe not in the actual act, but definitely about to. Um, if that's the case, like you basically have to hire a private investigator every time try to get that. Mm. And I mean the number of cases that have actually been gone to trial um and prosecuted, like those numbers are that's ridiculously small. Like five actually convicted. That's I think that proves it alone. Like in New York, you can only
Right.
got five people from since
Maybe
the
maybe there
'70s.
was only five people that have actually been stepping on their
Yeah,
layers.
in New York. Right. Yeah, I think that says enough. But no, I mean, besides that, what was I gonna say? The I do think there is a uh like the reason that the law would have been put in place. I could see it being realistic and not necessarily just bound to like a religion or anything like that. Like if you wanted to put a law like that in place to, say protect or not necessarily protect, but give greater assurance that divorces coming from adultery or like caused by adultery are reduced. I think you could say that that's like that would statistically reduce, I don't know, issues with children growing up in, single parent households, and then the any statistics that, are related to that. um so like I feel like you can make an argument from a statistical standpoint that that having a law against adultery, like if it was actually effective, could could be valuable, like could be valuable from a statistical standpoint outside of religious. um but yeah, I think just like the fact that it was so hard to prosecute is reason enough alone, in my opinion, to repeal it. And then um I could still see like I could still see the state getting involved, and I wonder if this is a thing where like if part of the marriage contract or like a prenuptial agreement or something like that includes stipulations against adultery, then I wonder, and I would assume so, that the state could still get involved in like applying some type of penalty, most likely
Well,
monetary, maybe not
well,
jail time, but
well. People sign a prenup. That's not necessarily a state thing. That's just a legal matter. Like
legal. Yeah,
if you sign a contract and you said like you got that's the terms of the contract, you have to agree to that, or
yeah,
you have
that's
to
what I'm
stand by
saying.
it.
So
Yeah, stand by that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So if adultery is part of that contract, you think that the state, since it's a legal thing,
My
would be
apologies.
able
Yeah,
to.
yeah. Once things become legally and they have to be enforced, yes, the state would be involved. I meant prenups aren't necessarily a state thing. My problem. That's what I meant to say. Like
Gotcha,
only
gotcha.
I mean, how many people get prenuptial agreements, or some type or any type of contract outside of the contract of marriage when they get married?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But if they do get a prenuptial agreement, that is something that the state is able to litigate because it becomes legal.
So what are you saying, dog? If when you get married, your wife presents you with a prenup that you can't commit adultery, you're signing it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And then if I did commit adultery, I would expect that in New York, they would still, there would still be legal precedent um, to, you know, convict me or whatever for committing that crime. And maybe the punishment isn't jail time or couldn't be jail time, but I feel like, or I'm wondering, I'm not sure based on what this article, but I feel like they would still be able to at least enforce like a fine or whatever the terms of the prenuptial agreement are.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What do you think is a fair, acceptable punishment? What is the fine, the penalty for stepping outside a relationship?
I mean, that's between the people that are making the prenuptial agreement. I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It was probably I I guess you'd put it as like a percentage of what you earn or something like that. I don't know.
Fair enough. And I like the
Percentage.
fact that you tried. That you, no, sorry, Lorna, that you made it. You were kind of making a case for why it could still be some like a law like this could still be for the benefit of society. The only thing is, to be honest, I don't necessarily think the state necessarily cares about what type of environment, or not what type of environment, but like the household structure of where a child grows up. The state just don't
Mm,
want the child taken care of, so the state doesn't have to take care of it. The state doesn't really care if it's a
gotcha.
single, a
Yeah, that's a good point.
single, single multi-family home. Obviously, we know that two-parent households will have a higher chance of success, and reduce the chance that that person will be an unproductive member of society. But I don't
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
just
I
the
was
state would
thinking
care
about
more.
it in terms of the this says that the law was put in place to like reduce divorce or make divorce harder. Um, so like, what would be the reason for that? I feel like it would have to be some type of uh like I don't know, some type of family type statistic type thing where you want to um where
Well, I
you
think
want to keep.
Well, I think, and I don't want to get into this whole like topic of, but I think you could make a case that back in the day, laws did have some level of semblance of. It is kind of based off some type of religious, scriptural, spiritual, however you want to frame it, background. Like quote unquote, like people talk about like America is a quote unquote Christian nation. There is some
Mhm.
semblance of that throughout history. Now, as we progress in our society, I think we've kind of started to realize, well, since America is a, what do they call it? I want to. The first thing came to
Melting
my mind.
pot.
First thing came to my mind was cesspool, but yes, melting pot. We can't necessarily frame laws and societal practice around a particular thing because it might infringe on other people's rights. So that's why I think over time things have started to develop in different ways. But I think at the core root of it, you could say there are laws and things were based off again a specific framing in mind.
Makes sense. That would make sense.
Um, but yeah, um, my apologies. Was there anything else you got?
Oh, that was it.
What about you, Ghost? What do you think? Do you think it makes some semblance of sense in a world in which moral issues like stepping outside of a relationship should be a legal matter?
Um, I I would say no, I guess, just because I had if I had seen some news that they were going to like enact a new law that punished adultery, and this wasn't just some existing thing, I'll be like, why would they do that? Just because again, the separation of, I guess, morality from criminality would be in my mind like that's a threshold that's a little too far to cross. I don't know what the if you're actually convicted, what the penalty even is, if it's not legal. But I think the source probably was, again, from a biblical or religious standpoint, because who knows when New York's laws were originally written, and they had the Old Testament verses about that specifically talk
I think
about
they said
adultery
19. I
and
think they said
divorce.
1907 or something.
Yeah, that's not that far ago, that long ago. But I guess more so than them getting rid of this law, I'm just wondering, like, they don't have anything better to do than look into archaic laws and dissolve them.
What
Like,
do you mean?
are we really spending our time, these I don't even know what the terms are, these congressmen, these law people are spending hours or having press conferences about this or whatever for something that literally doesn't matter? If this was still a thing, why would it matter? If the last conviction was, or the last time it was even used, not even a conviction, it was from 2010, 14 years ago,
You're
and we're
sounding real
spending our time looking into
anti-government
stuff
right
like
now.
this.
The government's
I
wasting
guess,
our
yeah.
money to dig up laws and like we should erase these administrations.
I mean, yeah, it's like, it's what's
I
the
mean,
point? What's the
realistically, it probably wasn't somebody that of like higher power of someone that has responsibility over something super relevant. I think they mentioned the guy that was kind of responsible for it, but I
so
mean,
he's getting paid to look into this shit that doesn't matter.
it does benefit society when if we clean up our systems a bit.
No, it does. You're telling me this is benefiting society? A law that hasn't been used since 14 years ago, and what was it, five
While this
convictions? Like,
specific instance might look like in the grand scheme of things this is like not the highest priority. I think we get two similar methods. That's how we get like the elimination of like things like that did cause harm. Like I feel of while there might have been way more recent issues that resulted, I feel as if it could even like stop and frisk could have been a result of somebody just going back and looking at examining laws and being like, "Well, this is like useless" or something like
but
that.
stop and frisk is very relevant and very well, or very enforced, and this was not. Like, I get your point, but at the end of the day, the results and what they're even looking at that matters. Like, I don't care if they're combing through every single archaic law that was written up. That's, sure, there's plenty of stuff that's probably not relevant to our society now, but why are we looking at it? Why do we care? Like, stop and frisk, looking at they didn't look at the old laws and said, we need to get rid of stop and frisk out of nowhere. They got rid of it because of all the unjust cases and stuff that resulted from it. So I
I would
think this
just
is
give an
pointless.
example. There's probably something in the middle of something that caused some level of actual was like jamming up the justice system. Opposed to something that's relatively um
I
like
don't know. The
low
governor's
impact.
probably looking to cheat, and she came across this law and just trying to.
The governor literally said that they've been married for 40 years. They're not
Yeah,
stepping outside.
she's probably stayed married because she knew this law was a thing, but now she can commit
This
adultery with
governor is
that.
probably an
I'm kind of
old
joking
lady.
here, but
I definitely see what you're
never too old
saying.
to cheat.
Well, maybe. I definitely see what you're saying. Although at the same time, I feel as if it was like the literal governor like wasting her time on this, maybe that's one thing. But there's probably like some little like straight out of college or maybe some even intern that they just put on these type of assignments. Say go look through the laws and
But
if anything stands out that's kind of like doesn't seem appropriate, then come back to me. Like it's probably not somebody of a
still
high
spending
position.
time, like, signing the bill, and like, there had to be some level of interview for us to get this little clip from her, like this explanation. Like, it's
Yeah,
still
everything
time
has
and
to.
resources that's going into it, and this is the government, so you know that nothing was efficient or quick. It was probably
But
some
what would
long,
you
drawn out thing.
prefer?
What'd you say?
What would you prefer they look into?
Literally anything else. Like,
What?
I know. I don't
Anything
know.
else? That's broad.
Okay,
That could be this. Like,
anything that is matters and is relevant to our society. Like, I know nothing about government. I know nothing about politics. All I know is that you're getting paid to do something. You need to be getting paid to do something that matters. You're governing an entire city or a state, whatever.
Well,
Look into
matters
something that matters. This
matters
doesn't
matters is
matter.
relative.
Yes, exactly. Somebody has to
Nah,
define
you
that.
can't
Somebody
convince me
has
that this
to.
matters to any single person ever.
It does because
Really, it
somebody
No,
matters
it
to
definitely
doesn't.
brought it
No,
to
it
it matters
doesn't.
to somebody up
so,
until 2010. What do you mean?
14
yes.
years ago.
Somebody brought
One,
it up.
bro,
Somebody,
five cases.
somebody,
Didn't they
somebody
say
had a reason to
five
bring this up.
cases have this has been used for? Five out of the
They
how
said
many hundreds of millions of people in New
they said
York?
5 were convicted.
So why is that relevant? It's not.
Listen, I don't think we totally disagree with you. One, like what matters is relevant. And two, I almost can guarantee you, it was literally somebody that's working like within an administration, but they're relatively low wage worker, probably
I
make.
don't care, bro. I don't care
I'm
if they're
telling
making
you,
absolute minimum wage. There's better time is
college
better
intern.
spent. Your time is better spent.
It
It's
might be a
better
matter. It might be a
spent.
matter of they use these type of tasks and exercises to train people. Like
Right.
I don't care. Trade on something that matters more.
train
You
somebody
keep
that's
saying
like
that
getting
matters,
that's
but
newly getting into the world of politics and government to give them like, oh, we need to deal with laws on abortion. Is that what you want?
Make this a school assignment then. Make it a law school assignment that they give to some freaking co-op students that aren't getting paid for it. Like my whole thing is that just again, time and
We don't
resources
know. We actually don't even
have
know.
to go
By the way,
into
we
it.
don't know that. We don't know if the person that
I don't. Well, all I
first dug
know is
this
that
up got paid.
I'm seeing a article or a post about something that hasn't been used 14 years ago, and the governor's taking their time and signing it, and probably a photo op and giving this whole explanation. We don't care, bro.
You're chatting now. We don't know. We don't know. There's no photo op involved, and everything makes its way up to the government. It can be a literal. It can be a law that says you have to pet your dog in a certain way. It still has to make its way up to the governor. Let's come on.
I don't know. You could be using your time a lot better.
Fair enough.
Again, literally anything else.
Fair enough. Again, it sounded a bit anti-government, but nothing wrong with that. The moral of the story is, no matter what the laws are in your respective states, which you should have a general idea of the laws in your respective state, because they can vary drastically depending on where you're at. Um, we always encourage people to derive, when it comes to moral things, derive things not just from a legal perspective, but also you. I mean, for me specifically, it would be from the Bible, but from a higher sense of um, not purpose, not just based off what the law says. Like you should understand why you believe something is what I'm basically trying to say. But if there's nothing else, we can move on to the next topic.